Let's move on to peace talks with North Korea,
Yeah.
between the North and South. We've seen both their leaders meet recently. And then also there's talks going on about the Iran nuclear deal, so a lot of effort going into denuclearization.
Right.
These are issues that we've seen persist for years. Do you feel like we're in a position now where we can make significant progress, where we feel we can create more peace overseas?
I think optimism is good, and there's every reason to be optimistic, but I think an appropriate level of caution is also appropriate, is good, particularly dealing with the Kim regime and North Korea. That said, what we haven't ever seen in the past is a North Korean leader walking across the border into South Korea. First time in history that's happened. I think we also have to acknowledge, much like the China situation with trade, this president has intercepted a can that's been kicked to the end of the road. It's been kicked to the end of the road by not only the Obama administration, although they are certainly guilty of it, but previous presidents as well, including President Bush and President Clinton, and probably President Bush prior to Clinton. There's been this sort of naivete, if you will, about the ambitions of North Korea and trusting that they're going to concur with the rules of the world, and they haven't. But he intercepted it at the end of the road. Some people don't like his tough rhetoric. They find it problematic. They think that it's warmongering, and the reality is that he's just doing what Ronald Reagan did with less eloquence. And suddenly he's got the attention of this regime. And by getting China, as well as allies around the world, to participate in very strict economic sanctions against North Korea and specific North Korean leaders, he's driven them to their knees. What's the long-term outcome going to be? I don't know, but I know that we've never seen a North Korean president walk across into South Korea, and I think that that is worthy of note. It's worthy of our optimism, but it's also important that we remain realistic and scrutinize things carefully.
You're one of several congressmen to nominate President Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize,
Sure.
In part because of that.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate, given that where we are. I think it should serve as an encouragement to him and to those that support the United States. It should be an encouragement to our country, and it should be an encouragement to the world that we're serious about this, and that we honor what he's doing in terms of there are other things besides just the North Korean situation. He has now signed into law a large increase in defense spending for 2 years, something that was very important and very necessary, because we've depleted our defense to the point where half of our airplanes have to borrow parts from the other half of our airplanes just to stay in the sky. We've seen an increasing number of deaths and accidents among both our aircraft in all of the services, as well as our ships, because we've neglected it so long. And all of that is to say that by standing strong, the United States can ensure peace in the world by being stronger than everybody else. So he's overseen this, and I think it is worthy of consideration by the Nobel Committee. I think we should remember that Barack Obama I don't know if you can call earned it, but received a Nobel Peace Prize just for getting elected. And after that, we had a North Korean deal, we saw North Korea gain nuclear weapons. We watched Iran, gain a validation of their nuclear program. I think it's a good move at this point.
A lot of people excited about the possibility for peace between
sure.
the North and South, but it wasn't long ago the president was tweeting about Kim Jong-un threatening his nuclear capabilities. The president tweeting back saying his red button's bigger. I think people still have a little concern about
Sure.
that to celebrate this effort for peace.
Yeah. Well, I would submit to you that the president's hard rhetoric, while not seen in diplomatic circles as probably the best approach, is the approach that is, to some degree, that's brought Kim Jong-un to the table. That, in other words, don't doubt my resolve to make sure that you do not become a nuclear superpower. Because up to this point, presidents have been talking tough and not doing anything about it. I mean, whether it's bright red lines with Syria, or Iran's nuclear program, or Kim Jong-un in North Korea, or frankly the Russians. We're going to trust the Russians with Syria's chemical weapons, and somehow that means they'll never use them again. This president comes in with an appropriate level of skepticism, but he's also, again, intercepted this can at the end of the road, and he doesn't have the luxury of long-term diplomatic negotiation, so he has to be tough right up front. Yeah, it's not, like I said, it's Ronald Reagan without the eloquence.
Mm-hmm.